The first night or so I was there, someone took me aside and said that it's a good idea to keep your eyes and ears open and your mouth shut. The first night or so I was there, someone took me aside and said that it's a good idea to keep your eyes and ears open and your mouth shut, because you're going to see a lot of stuff that doesn't belong outside the agent's information.
The Secret Service saw another side of Camelot, the dark side. 4 of them have chosen to speak for the first time.
We protected him readily with our lives if we had to. But there were times when he would go into private gatherings and private activities where I felt that he opened himself to danger, to hazard, and things that weren't very mightily not becoming the President of the United States, to say the least.
He was like a rough-cut diamond you just dug out of the dirt. If you cut it or strike it, you see one facet which makes you want to go out and fall under a car for him and love and admire him. And you see another facet that would make you not want to ever associate with him off the job in a bar or a restaurant or spend time, certainly not let him babysit your sister.
Agents report that the president often spent private time with young women on the White House staff. 2 of them were secretaries, known by the nicknames Fiddle and Faddle.
Fiddle and Faddle joined the Kennedy campaign in Los Angeles, and after he was elected, they were assigned to work in the White House. But it became apparent that they were there to be scooped up and taken into the pool at noon with JFK. And the term we heard, they would go skinny dipping with Jack. And they appeared to be the sole afternoon entertainment for the president. And occasionally one of the White House staff members would take 1 or 2 of them upstairs when the president was up there. But this never happened when Jacqueline Kennedy was in town or when she was in the White House.
One time, warning didn't come to the White House that Mrs. Kennedy was actually on her way. And just in the nick of time, the agent in charge was able to run into the pool and warn the president, and the door opened and people scattered, and as he ran out, he was holding a Bloody Mary in his hand, and I happened to be on the post there, and he said, "Here, take this." He didn't know what to do with it, and so I took it, and upstairs he went, and everybody parted, and everybody left, so that she didn't know. I never, in my real mind, figured that for the 2 years I was there that she really didn't know what was going on. It would have been impossible, but strange situation. Miss Camelot, you don't rock the boat.
In the Kennedy White House, members of the Secret Service were concerned that the president's private behavior made him a potential target.
Many people came to the White House who did not know who they were. He had a tendency to surround himself with ladies sometimes that were a little worrisome.
These women were of questionable character.
Most of the other Secret Service agents and myself were worried about the fact that the Russians or communists or any people like that could bring in a ringer, so to speak.
We didn't know if these women were carrying listening devices, if they had syringes that carried some type of poison, or if they had Pentax cameras that would photograph the president for blackmail.
Possibility of blackmail and things like that are astounding. Who knows? I never knew the name of one of the outsiders.
One night in Seattle, we took the president up to the Olympic Hotel to secure for the night, and as we were doing that, a high-ranking law enforcement official from King County had come out of the elevator with 2 prostitutes and was walking down toward the president's door. And a senior staff member came out of the president's suite, thanked him for bringing the girls up, and took them into the suite. So one of the policemen, the lieutenant, asked me, he said, "Does this go on all the time?" And I didn't know what to say, and I said, "Well, we travel during the day, this only happens at night."
Prostitution, that's illegal. A procurement is illegal. And if you have a procurer with prostitutes paraded in front of you, then as a sworn law enforcement officer, you're asking yourself, well, what do they think of us?
You were on an elite assignment. It was the most elite assignment in the Secret Service. And you were there watching an elevator or a door because the president was inside with two hookers.
And this continued constantly. It was just not once every 6 months, not every New Year's Eve, but it was a regular thing. And I remember one time I was with the president in Honolulu. During that trip, he went to Battleship Arizona and a few other things. The president arrived at the residence about on time. I'd say within 10 minutes, a staff member arrived in a car escorting two ladies, and they marched in the house also. This was sort of the usual routine in many stops. And a colonel of the Marines turned to me and said, "Who are they?" And I turned to him, I said, "Well, they're secretaries, and I assume there's some work the president wants done this evening." We protected the president in many different ways. But the Honolulu episode made me angry. It did make me angry. We're talking about the President of the United States. And I'm not a holier-than-thou guy, but he just shouldn't be doing this in public like this. There was no regard for who was there. The Marine colonel was there. He knew what, what's going on. Other people were there. The Navy people were in the house. Cooks were in the house. He's the president. He's the boss. I didn't like it, but what you gonna do about it? Nothing.
The concerns of the Secret Service went beyond the dangers that prostitutes might pose. The agents learned that the president was using dangerous medication.
While I was working at the White House, there was a doctor, I believe his name was Jacobson, who we used to call Dr. Feelgood. He'd periodically come to the White House with a case full of medications that possibly could have been harmful.
Dr. Max Jacobson had a loyal following among celebrities in New York and Hollywood. He injected his patients with what he called vitamin shots that boosted their energy and confidence.
We learned that Jacobson would inject himself too. So sometimes when he came to the White House, his speech was slurred, and he was going up to the floor or go into the pool room to give the president a shot.
We assumed because he was a doctor and had permission to go to see the president that it was okay for him to go in.
Someone took out a sample of what he was giving the president, and the sample mysteriously got to Bobby Kennedy, who had it analyzed, and it turned out to be amphetamines.
Official logs show that Dr. Jacobson made more than 30 visits to the White House.
Of course, both Russia and the United States at that time had the thermonuclear bomb. And if the president turns around and starts having hallucinations, he was one reach from the red phone on his desk when he was taking these injections. In fact, when he was meeting Khrushchev at the summit meeting, Feelgood went with him expressly to keep the injections going to the president.
The president depended on Jacobson during his first summit meeting with Khrushchev, and he continued to depend on the doctor's treatment through some of the most difficult periods of his presidency. Both Robert Kennedy and the official White House physician Janet Travell tried to convince the president he should stop seeing Jacobson, but they failed. According to Jacobson's records, he last saw the president in Florida as he was preparing for the November trip to Dallas. Max Jacobson's medical license was revoked in 1975 after one of his patients died